That's my connected load, maximum connected load. This is really practical. You can actually do this, right? And now you know how to do it in a real life application. Okay, so you take 35 meters. Now I got to go to table D3. How does it give the maximum percent drop that you're allowed?
It says allow for 3%.
Allow for 3%. So in the question, it said 3% maximum voltage drop. Okay. Table D3. Anyone have payments?
3.8. Hey, Rondo, you want to divide by 0.8?
You want D3?
D3, yeah. I'll tell you. 543. There we go. To add 42 to it every time.
Also, it's the PDF, the breakers.
Okay, so
You don't want to make a break.
where do I look here? I don't have a 24 amp load listed under the load, under the current here, the load.
I agree.
So I have to go to 25 on here. Yeah. So for the table, for purposes of the meters, you go to the 25. And there is a note in there that tells you to do that. And the reason why you don't divide by 0.8 is because you already have the circuit value, and you're going the other way. You're going to what is the load.
You don't want to put a bigger breaker on it.
No. So the load is always smaller than the breaker. Think about it that way. So it's times 0.8. Right? Load is smaller than the breaker size. 80%, it's 80% of it. So this is the real way to do it. Say I'm installing this. How much do I load it up? 80%. So times 0.8. If you had the connected load, now you're, what we did yesterday is in reverse and saying, well, what's the minimum circuit would I need? And I have to go bigger than that, somewhat bigger than that. So this way is actually easier to understand.
Yeah.
It's 80% of the circuit.
Sure.
So I need a minimum 30 amp circuit for this, right? 24 amp load. Well, have a 30 amp circuit. Okay, so 25, if I chose number 10, because in table 2 it says it's a 35 amp wire.
Only 6 meters.
What about number 12? Could I use number 12 for that? What's my minimum circuit? 24 amp load?
Yeah, there's one that
Is it 30 amp wire?
Number 12 is 25 amps, but I'm looking at the circuit. So that's the circuit value, is this receptacle right now. I don't know the breaker just yet. Well, let's say 30 amp circuit breaker. Let's just do that, because that's what we're going to do, right? 30 amp circuit. So my wire has to be 30 amps or more. So it has to be number 10, right? Minimum. So I'll put up in here number 10 minimum, because it's 35 amp wire. Where did it tell me that? Table 2. Okay, so just in the corner, we're just going to say I need a minimum of 10. Will that work? You can't go less than what? Number 10. Don't put a 12 in. Yeah, you'll get failed.
you can put in a number 8 though.
You could put in a 2 on, you know.
I've done it.
Yeah. Okay, so 25, and then I go to number 10. Say that's, if I try 10, it's 6.2 meters. But I think what we're going to do is, I mean, if we tried it, we know it's not going to work. Well, maybe we don't. Maybe we do know. You want to try it? Trial and error? Try 10. Right? So we go total distance equals 6.2 meters. Does everyone see how we got the 6.2?
Yeah, 25.
And what column?
Yeah, 10.
Number 10. We're trying out number 10. This is the trial method, right?
We're going 25, which is larger than the 24 amp load.
Okay. What's the voltage? Two-pole breaker, we're going to say it's 240 volts. Because it is.
37.2.
So 240 over 120, right? It's a multiplier of 120, so it's 2. And a maximum 3% drop, 3% over 1% is a 3. And then we have the distance correction factor that we don't know. So how do you calculate that distance correction factor?
I just put one in.
Number 10 is what is number 10 in 90-degree wire? So we use the 90-degree wire, let's look at color here. 90-degree wire in our calculation for the distance correction factor only. That's where we actually use the wire. Okay, so 40 amps for number 10.
Yeah.
Okay, how much is the actual load?
24.
24, not 25, we just used that to get the meters. Still 24. 6.
Yeah, 1.04.
Okay, so 60%, now we go to the next spot. You're right, I'm just going step by step. 60% and 85 to 90-degree wire, right? 1.04, excellent. So that's how we got it. And it's 37 point,
I did it off just 1%. I didn't do the correctional value.
It's 38.688.
so it works.
It does work.
Yeah. Okay. 0.69 amps. Meters. Amps. Meters.
I was like,
Meters. Okay, so that far, so is it good?
yeah.
Yeah, it's bigger than 30, it's 35 or bigger. So we can go that far. If it's less than 35, we've got to go to the next wire size up. That's pretty much it. Now, why, if I had a 25 amp load, like in that question, what if I had a hardwired, not a 30 amp receptacle, but a hardwired load of 25 amps instead? We're going to say, sorry, 25, right?
Instead of 24?
Yeah, because that's what your question says, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to see what the difference is here. Like that one's basic. 30 amp circuit, it works for the distance, bang, boom, done, Bob's your uncle.
90%.
Bob your uncle?
No, I don't know Bob's.
Is there a percentage or
I don't know a single Bob.
No,
Alright.
it's spelled the same backwards.
Ooh.
What is
Yeah,
Race car?
no.
Race car.
Strip.
It is.
Ron's let's get mine.
Pretty Anyway, that's good. You learn something new every day. Okay, so 25 amp load, 25 amp load. So what would I do for distance? Would I do the same thing?
You change the formula, right?
The only difference is this 25 amps out of 40 amps becomes what percentage?
625, 62%.
70%.
62%, so you gotta go up to 70, the next higher column. Okay, but even if I did that, 70 and 85, 90 is just a plain old 1.00. So if I change that to 1.00, how many meters is that?
39.
What is it?
37.2.
I thought 39.
It still works. So why didn't we use number 10 in that question? Because, anyone know?
Does your circuit breaker change if it's 25 amps, or is it, if it's hardwired, you don't have to do 80%?
We're not, okay, right now, we don't have a dryer receptacle anymore.
You have a 25 amp load.
We have a 25 amp load, right? Okay? 25 amp load, that's what we have. So we don't know the breaker size. What is the minimum circuit for that? Not the 24 amps. 25 puts it over the hump, basically. Right? So 25 divided by 0.8.
31.25.
So why did I divide by 0.8 in this instance?
That's what you're drawing, so you need to get the
Minimum circuit size?
Trying to find what the circuit is. All right, the last one I gave you is what the circuit was. This one we don't know what the minimum circuit is. So this was what, 8, 104, 6A? Sound right? 6A?
Yeah.
Okay, get to know those. Okay, divide by 0.8. So if I add 6 1/4 to that, it's 31.25. Right? So can I use number 10 being 35 amp wire? I can if it's a heater, because the heater rules are different. We'll get to that, or next time, not this test, we'll get to that. 35 amp wire is good for the circuit, but the breaker, it cannot handle, well, first of all, the breaker, what is the maximum breaker on a number 10? If I chose a number 10 here. 10, yeah, 10. So 14, 104, what's the rule for that? It's 2 something. 2C? 2C? What does that say?
15 amp.
30 amp, for number 10, AMG copper.
Yeah. So maximum 30 amp circuit breaker for that wire, meaning my minimum circuit of 31.25 amps cannot be achieved because the breaker is limited to 30. That's the smaller of the breaker of the wire. 35 amp wire, 30 amp breaker. So I gotta go to the next breaker, 40 amp breaker, and a number 8. I have to upsize the wire. Because you cannot protect the circuit with a 30 amp breaker, you have to go up. Now you can't protect a number 10 with a 40 amp breaker. So in this case, that was the glitch in that one question where everything worked, except your minimum circuit is too high for 30 amps. So now you go, okay, can't use 10, I go number 8 and 40 amp circuit breaker. It's a circuit loading question at the same time as it's a voltage drop question. It's testing your knowledge.
What happens if you have, like extra, your capacity is fine for your wire, but your lugs is like too small for your wire? I guess you just change out your lug thing.
If your lugs are too small for the big wire.
Yeah.
You can get,
Lug objects?
you can get the reducers, wire reducers,
Yeah.
and they crimp on, and then they sort of, they more dense of a conductor. Anyone installed those?
No, I was just curious because one time we were doing like a temp power on a power pole, and my journeyman had to like shave off some because it didn't fit the
Yeah.
thing, and he's like, yeah, I really don't like that. So then the next day, like, we came back with crimps and did it that way.
Yeah, either that or sometimes they have a little Allen key on them.
Okay.
So you grab it with your pliers and you're like cranking it with the Allen key
Yeah.
on each wire, and then you put them into the breakers.
Yeah.
Did we do 25 amps in that whole second part of that question that we just did, just as like a theoretical what's supposed to happen? Or is that like, why do we go to 25 amps there if we already calculated?
The question was,
The
in
new
the
question.
worksheet said that it's a 25 amp load.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what I did one example, 24
Really, he's like,
Right, yeah,
don't
so
ever do
all over
this.
that, and
He's
then
like,
25.
shave it.
And then we're saying, okay, what if now it's
like,
25, if you go 1 amp more?
Gotcha.
Don't ever
Yeah,
do
so
this.
what's the maximum meters I can go? So I'm gonna say total distance
Yeah.
for number 8.
He does all like
What's my meters on the table?
He's like, used to working on that shit.
9.9.
Like meter stacks in front of the wall. And like moving wires live. I'm like,
9.9.
9.9. So you go way further. Times 2, times 3, times, okay, I don't know the DCF. But I do know that it's number 8 in table 2 under the 90-degree column. It's not 50 amps. You looked it up before.
55.
It's 55. So go 25 amps out of 55 amps is what percentage of ampacity fill, if you want to think of it like that.
45%.
45%, which throws me down to the next higher 50% column.
1.6.
85 to 90 degree row, and we line up and just see what number that is. Yeah, 1.06 right there. So it's pretty basic. It's just a matter of doing a lot of them. Just do a lot of them, and it's like, oh, I get it. It's actually not hard. It's just I don't know how to do it. 1.06.
Well, go almost 63 meters.
63 meters.
Rounded up, yeah.
You rounded it up. No, 62 point.
96.
Okay. Yeah, 63 is too far.
I hear you.
Inspector might go for it.
I'm pushing it, man.
And who really measured it, you know, like, right? Anyway, oh yeah,
My
yeah.
Inspector's gonna go like bring a tape and follow your poles.
He's gonna bring one of those wheels.
Yeah, but he's gonna have to like wheel it up the 2x4.
He's going up the side.
Across the stairs.
Fail. Yeah, you're.
I did one job on my own, I was doing it downtown, and they had a townhouse section, two townhouses, and they had an up and a down, up and a down. And what they wanted to do is separate the two into two suites, upstairs and downstairs. First of all, they had to go through a big rigmarole for the building code and put like fire rated drywall and all that, like 5/8. Yeah,
You got-
you
you
see
got-
that because you're separating tenants now, right? Anyway, long story short, did all the circuits, put a panel in upstairs, had to run it in that fluffy insulation and the parquet, and drilled my ready rod and hung the cam truss, and then P-clipped all the ACWU. I still have a big chunk of ACW at home. Anyway, so ran all that, but I had to do a voltage drop calculation and a load calculation for the inspection department. So you know, if you're doing that, your boss is doing that, he's gonna have to do these calculations. And he's gonna say to you, he's gonna say, Nick, you gotta do that, can you do that calculation for me? Because you were the last one in school, so you remember how to do it. Right? So that, seriously, they're gonna get apprentices to do these calculations. So pay attention, you know. It's like, oh, I don't know, man. You know.
He's gonna say that's fun.
But, you know, I did the calculation, they approved it, and so. I had to upsize the wire to one side. So it's all on this side.
That's fun, right?
Just tell them. That job, took my wife on that job, last job she worked at, she said, I don't want to do it anymore.
She was his
I
wife.
still don't think he's out.
It wasn't the,
Elevator just
it
goes.
wasn't the insulation, because I had a mask on, pad, zipped right up, sleeves, you know, just like could barely breathe, I was sweating like a pig. All the wire inside, I had, okay, well, run this, I drilled all the holes, run this 3 wires from here to here, run this one from here to there, and I kept going and checking on
Where's
it,
the wood for
but her hands just couldn't handle the pulling of the wires. Yeah, just like that's it, no more.
How much you do it? You get the guy climbed up.
Pretty cool though.
And I got my son going, what did he do? He took the
I don't know.
Oh, it's harder.
Oh, it is, yeah.
I know about that.
It's trying to say common denominator,
Yeah.
you know?
I didn't say it was what you need to know. I didn't say what you need to know.
So I'll run away.
Do. Oh, it's a harder job.
Plumbing?
Heavy steel, 6-inch steel.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you
So like, is that a hard job or
Oh,
is
it's
it
tools, industrial, you know.
I thought you meant like resi, I was like, oh,
No,
it's
resi's
pretty
like,
easy. They just-
cut the pecs.
Yeah.
Yeah, throw the ABS in.
Yeah.
Ponder like.
Okay, house calculation?
Doing HVAC would kind of suck because you're always in the rafters doing shit.
Yeah, but they make a lot of money.
Yeah, they do. But it's really awkward. Like, there's this really fat HVAC guy at my site, and he's always standing on the studs, and like, I feel like he's gonna fall all the time.
If you wanna make a lot of money, do the lottery.
Like,
No shit. My dad were working on this place at UBC, and she won the lottery, and she makes like $3,100 a day on interest. She won 60 million. It's just weird.
it's just insane. A day. That's retarded.
Yeah.
Shows
Not this one.
Yeah.
She really won a lot. It's insane. What's that?
31 bucks a day.
3,100.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say that. Pretty, that's
Dude,
too
I
bad.
don't even
Who cares though?
You know better.
No, like you need.
Except for like what we
Bang.
It's better to show your panel, or your, it's called the service box on the other side here. I'm gonna flip it around in a sec.
Is that high?
This, well, no, this,
That's your meter, right?
this wire here is yours. This is Hydro's wire leaving here, right? This is the homeowners, so you gotta buy all this, install this. Is this correct to have, what is that, 1.25" EMT?
I think it's gotta be 2.
I don't think it's tall enough.
Well, we had limitations with this thing, okay, so, anyway.
Why wouldn't it? I believe.
She'll check in her phone.
I don't know, that question will definitely be on that test though.
Okay. Because you have the support on the wall, which goes into an actual structural member of the building and not just into the plywood, that's your support for your wedge grip. So your wedge grip goes in and you wedge that little thing on and with the bare triplex. I don't have any cable to show you, but you can pass around triplex, right? Which is neutral supported cable. So anyone done any overhead? A little bit? Overhead wiring?
I've worked overhead, but not on this.
Yeah. Okay, so what do? Let's get a picture of a wedge grip up here. This is good, in case you guys ever run into this. Is it?
I just pictures in appendix B.
I don't know if they could, what am I typing?
Disposed wiring on buildings. Here we go.
What code for
Different type of wedge grip, neutral support. Okay, that. This one's different. This one, they did the funky wrap around the piece of wire thing. I would say that's wrong. There it is. So wedge grip. So when you put these in, don't face them up, face them down. Why do you think? Water. Yeah. Boss will get mad at you. Well, you face them upwards, you know. So anyway, they are aluminum, so it doesn't really rust much over time, but eventually it'll. I don't know if it's 100% aluminum, but it has some aluminum in it. Anyway, so the wire goes in there, and then this piece slides and wedges that. So the tighter it pulls, the tighter it gets. So it'll never come apart, right? So there's your wedge grip. So your neutral goes through, and then you leave some hanging, and then you connect it to this wire here, the bare wire coming in. After you loop it through your wedge grip, then you connect it to this guy, and you do an insulink. What? Insulink, waterproof with some like tetrodotoxy goopy stuff inside it. It's like a crimp. And then you leave it and it is good. Either you do that or Hydro does that or whoever does that, depending on. Contractors for hydro can do it. If you're contracting for hydro, you've probably done that.
Power up.
Yeah, and then make sure you do a drip loop so that the water doesn't go into the service head. So you don't want it like this, because then water will get in there and go into your meter and panel. So you want the water to travel like this and then just drip off. Right? There's all these rules in section 6 about that. But I just wanted to mention that. Now, if you support it here, this is not a mast. Not a mast. What is a service mast?
1.5 meters over the roof or something like that?
It's when you, increase the height over the roof and you connect the wedge grip to a whatever U-bolt thing on here, whatever it's called, that's the point of attachment. So this right now, this is the point of attachment. Then if you make the pipe the point of attachment, this has to be rigid steel, trade size 63, which is 2.5 inch, so it's quite a bit bigger. And because think of a sailboat, if it's on a mast, has to take a lot of weight, a lot of pressure. If the support is on that, you can't use EMT. But if it's not on there, you can use EMT, PVC, TEC, ACWU, whatever you want as your service raceway. It's just a service conduit is all it is, not a mast. So that's the difference between a mast. So minimum size mast is 2.5 inches, right? EMT is just the size you need for the wires. And we'll do some pipe fill at the same time as we do a house cap. We should sort of get that under our belts. Again, reviews.
Is that regular?
No.
Yeah, he's rigid views.
Black stuff.
Yeah. Oh.
That's not racist, dude, just because it's in black.
But it just broke the stake from everybody whistling. And like nobody was home.
What is that, right?
Or,
Is that 1.5 meters makes it
like, so I booked everything.
above
It's gonna be
the
like 6
top plane?
The difference, the 1.5 meters is the maximum unguide projection.
Okay,
So it means that without a guy wire, you can go 1.5 meters. But after that, you need a guy wire.
Yeah, down to the roof, and then
Oh,
shows you how to do it. I remember I had to learn that.
6 guys I think in a room in a paint.
You have to like rip up the roof.
Don't just screw it on top of the shingles. It's
What?
Like, Toronto rent a house that.
You should have
So
shot.
you have to like go into the roof and like you build it up to the roof. So you have to,
Look at houses like, houses like.
Get a roofer.
with you on it.
Okay.
Didn't wanna like,
Something like
He's
that.
a roofer.
Let's set something up. What do you want in your house? What do you want in this house?
A hot woman.
I want,
It's not under the list, so it's other, you know what that is?
Someone should review
Any
this.
loads in addition to those outlined.
Sauna, the whole shebang.
yeah, let's just do it all.
Hot tub,
I want base floor
Okay,
heating.
first of all, what type of heating do we want? Gas or electric?
Yeah.
Easier to
calculate. Gas is
probably
quite
gas.
Okay,
so what do you have?
gas furnace.
You know, all those commercials convinced me we should go with gas.
Okay,
The fourth species.
they put smell in it.
The gas.
Yeah, if you smell rotten eggs, make sure you walk outside first.
And then mention what?
Then call.
Hot water
Oh,
tank,
who?
electric or gas?
No, one or four SPC.
Yeah.
They just say, they just say gas first.
You may as well.
They're like, call us. I'm like, I don't know.
I like how they say, call Fortis PC or 911. I'm gonna call 911.
Yeah,
I'll
Call
Fortis number
I
on
smell
hand.
gas, my house might blow up. And they're like, yeah, this is like 911 call.
Let's do an electric
All
range.
driving Teslas.
Let's do an electric range.
Yeah, for sure.
How many, we'll go 14 kilowatts.
There, you should say there's also a gas engine, so there's a secondary one too.
You got electric in the.
Just leave it simple.
Aw, too big.
Just make it slow.
Okay. There you go. There you go, Jeff. It's,
Nice.
got a second range.
Mine is 280.
One
It's a big
engine.
It does, yeah.
I actually do.
Yeah, like a little clean.
And they have gas range, eh? In the suite, sure.
That's how they're tricking hydro.
Okay, so they have that. Okay, there are 3 kitchens. All right, so we have, what? A water tank,
Hot tub.
Pretty common.
I see garbage.
We have a sauna.
Hot tub.
okay. Oh, hot tub, yeah. Okay, so how many kilowatts would a hot tub be? Do you
6.
I think so? Okay.
That's very interesting.
Electric.
People must be wealthy.
So we got heat, we got hot water, we got cooking, what about a dryer?
Yeah.
One upstairs, one downstairs. No, they just put it in one of their.
1.5 kilowatts, just to make things interesting.
Should we, say how many square feet this house is?
That's so fucking true.
How many is someone's house? Like, do you have an example of how many square feet?
4,200 square.
5,000.
200 divided by 10.76 gives you how many meters squared?
What square?
4,200 square feet is what in meters squared?
What'd you say divided by what?
10.76.
That is
Divided by 10.418.
418 meters.
Yeah, look at your conversions at the beginning of the code.
Yeah, 669.14. 669. Let's go.
That's huge. That's a sure.
7,200 divided by 10.7.
4,200. 4,200.
Oh, that's why I was doing 7,200.
So we're looking at about 400.
Yeah, 399. Yeah.
390.
That was my bad.
Okay, so upstairs, let's say the main floor, let's go a third, and a third. Let's say 130 square meters. Main, 130 square meters upper, and full basement, full coach house. There you go, so you get something like that. So full basement means take your main floor, it's the same as the main floor. All right. else? Is there anything else that we're missing?
Yeah, the coach house.
You want a sauna?
Sauna.
Yeah.
Okay, air conditioning, so what, 3 kVA air conditioner? What's kVA? It's just kilowatts for the code, as far as the code's concerned, it's just kilowatts. You're gonna learn about kVA and that it's actually not just kilowatts. But you know that, you got that power triangle, right? It's something that's coming.
Same as me.
Okay,
right?
so, what did I say? AC, how about, say, like a lot of times there's a furnace and then upstairs, I mean, you've got AC, but I don't know, if you get cold in certain bedrooms, they'll have some baseboard heat. So let's say we've got 12 kilowatts.
Absolutely now.
No.
Especially you kilowatts.
Baseboard heat as an alternative way of heating
For some of those bedrooms.
a house.
What about a 3.25 kilowatt carport turbine?
Okay,
Because I don't have Tesla, so.
so
There we go.
if I go, if I say I have a 30 amp receptacle and what's 24 times 240? Because I'm loading up 80%, right? So that's the loading.
5,760.
55760?
Yeah. 240 times 40?
Sure. Okay. No,
5760.
it is 24 times 240?
Yeah.
Okay. So 5.76 kilowatt electric vehicle supply equipment. That's how it words it. And the reason is, it's not a charger. Electric vehicle supply equipment is just AC voltage ready, and your car draws it out the way it needs. So the car, the converter inside the car, the electric car, anyone have an electric car?
I wish.
No, I'm an electrician.
My neighbor
Yeah,
does.
I asked the fourth year class, and they said, no, we're apprentices.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My neighbor has a Tesla.
It's expensive. My neighbor has a Tesla, and it got hit.
Which one?
He
Model S?
put it outside on the road, just because company was there, and he was only out there for a half an hour. He normally parks it in the garage or in the driveway.
Dumbass.
And he just pulled it out there, and the company said, oh, do you want to pull your car? Oh, no, it'll be fine there. And then within that 30 minutes, within that time, a truck came by, and I don't know if he was not looking or what, right into his car, parked at the side of the road.
Where was
And
that?
then
Next
took
Surrey?
off.
You drove away?
Took off.
Was that Surrey?
I always thought
thought
it was a Tesla.
Where do you live? Like, your neighbors and Teslas and.
Where do you
Point
live?
Grey.
Pretty
You
much
should see your house.
What's that?
I would like to want Yeah, so after coffee, we're gonna break this down into a thing, but you can start right away if you want, if you don't feel like taking your coffee breaks.
Too much.
And we can add up the square meters.
Yeah, what if it's they have their own custom bowling alley?
Sport here. They're probably just open all the pages.
To calculate the living area.
8,200.
No.
8110.
8110, yes. Living area.
You can use 8,201 as well.
No, not to calculate the living area.
Oh, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
I got it. You're on.
So, 8110, I'm gonna go 100% of the upper, 100% of the main, and
75.
75% of the basement, so 100%, 100%, 75%, right? So what is 75% of 130?
97.5.
Sorry?
97.5.
97.5?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone agree, if you disagree, shout it out.
No, I trust her.
Sorry.
Trust no one.
Trust no one. Yeah.
Listen too much Drake there.
He's great.
I think he's in third year.
Here's the guy in the wheelchair.
Hey, what's the living area of Norlis?
Degrassi.
Okay, so area, now,
Thanks.
the living area is determined from the outside dimensions, right?
Correct.
Inside, okay. So those that we're talking, this is. Okay, so now, 12 kilowatt range, what order am I gonna do this in? I'm gonna make a little chart. I'm gonna say, okay, basic load. The next one is electric space heating. AC. What order are we doing this? Range. I like to do them in order so I don't miss anything.
It's your E,
Spa, tankless water heaters, is a hot water tank, even if it was electric, is that same as a tankless?
Yes.
Is that a question?
No,
No.
tankless, no tank. So a tank, and tankless, are exact opposites, right? It's hot, tankless is hot water on demand.
Do they only have like tankless or apartment building?
They could have, I don't know,
Well,
it's
you
on
said
demand,
you
it's a
were-
whole control system that when you turn on the water, it instantly heats the water, it's without storage.
I love it.
I guess it just goes through the
Lots
pipe.
of heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of heat.
You like heat pipes like that one?
So anyway, but they got it. So I'm gonna say these loads are less than 1,500 watts, so we don't even count anything that's gas. Just get rid of it right away. Furnace has probably a blower that's, you know, who knows, 3 amps, 4 amps max. If it's a bigger one, probably 2 amps. Not enough wattage to actually count for a house calculation. It would be considered basic load. Okay, basic load is what?
Oh, I got this time.
5,000 watts.
What is basic load? No, what is basic, what the definition, not the calculation?
I don't know.
Okay, that's what I'm.
Minimum, the minimum
First
capacity of service or feeder conductors defined so
Basic load, guys, what kind of loads?
I was wrong.
What kind of loads?
Your basic demand factors?
Basic.
Basic loads of 5,000 watts for the first 9. That's not that.
No, he's looking for
What?
a
Yeah, the plugs, yeah, all around the receptacles.
Oh, you look at the depth, okay,
Your
so we go to
range?
0,
I don't know if it's in there or not. Might be. Check.
Check.
Don't hold back. I'm not stopping you. And lights, lights and plugs.
Lights and
So
plugs.
you don't put any kind of heavy-duty equipment into this house. It's based on the basic area. The area determines how much lights and plugs will take up in watts. That's what this is. So 8200, 1A, 1 and 2. So basic is
I got that.
82, this is running out of steam here.
7,200.
Use the- So, okay, yeah, this is 1 and 2. One and 2. Electric space heat and AC are 3.
Civil War Russia.
Range is 4. What's 5?
5 is any electric tankless water heaters or electric water heaters for steamers, swimming pools, hot tubs, or spas with a demand factor of 100%.
Hot tub. Hot tub heater, okay. 6.
Any electric vehicle supply equipment loads with a demand factor of 100%.
EVSE, yeah. And then 7.
Any loads provided for in addition to those outlined in items I to VI as 25% of the rating of each load rating in excess of 1,500 watts. If an electric range has been provided for, or 100% of the rating of each load with a rating is in excess of 1,500 watts, up to a total of 6,000 watts, plus 25% of the load in excess of 6,000 watts, if an electric range has not been provided for.
You're just reading.
That's what you want. So you're really plugging in.
Plug in your clay. No, that's very good reading. So in a nutshell, we're looking at other,
boys.
we're looking at other loads greater than 1500 watts.
Yeah.
Right, so summarizing here what that is. So that's what each of those talks about. Now, if this calculation is, let's say, let's look at this B part here. It says greater of A or B, so we can either calculate this or go with B. After doing all that, when would we use one of the amps in B as our total instead of the calculated total? If it's greater than the calculated total, if it's 80 square meters is our go-to, right? 80 square meters. See that? So it's greater than 80, if it's 80 or more, it's a minimum 100 amps. Automatically go to 100 amps. If it's less than 80, you go with 60. You don't ever go less than 60. So if I got 57 amps as my calculation here, I gotta say it's 60. Like I have to throw 3 more amps on there. Right? Old news, nothing new?
But that's not quite relevant, yeah.
Okay, well, it won't be relevant, I'm just saying if, because this is gonna be too big, I can tell. So we're gonna say, okay, that won't apply, but because our calculated value is gonna be higher than that, then use A, right? Okay, so what about, what does it mean when it says exclusive of the basement floor area? This is important actually, because you might see a few of those.
It's excluded.
Yeah, so if you don't, not including the basement, if you add up the other floors, I got 260 square meters. So it automatically is going to be a 100 amp service. Automatically right now, just looking at it, looking at that area. There's these two only, right? Not the basement. Okay, so I'm going to carry on now. 5,000 watts for the first 90 meters squared. So we got, what's our total meters squared here?
357.5.
That's our living area. Living area. So 9 times 4 is 360. So I'm going to say there's 4 chunks of 90 meters squared here. Right? So we're going to say, okay, first 90, 5,000, right?
Yeah.
Second and third, 90.
1,000.
Will be 1,000 times 2, right? 2 chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second and third one. So we got 90, 90, 90. That gives us 270. So how much is remaining? 357.5 minus 270.
87.5.
Okay, remaining, I'm only doing this the long way just so that everyone understands. Some guys have not done house calculations ever. 87.5, is that right?
Yeah.
That's the remaining. Is it a portion of 90? What if it was 1 meter squared or half a meter squared? It's still a portion of 90. So whatever that number is, doesn't matter. It says here, portion, or portion. So if you're left over with part of a chunk of 90, then it counts as full 1,000 watts. Okay, so that's 1,000 watts.
Well,
So how I do it is I take this number and I divide it by 90 and say how many chunks of 90 are there. That's just an easier way to do it. Take this number, divide by 90, what do you get?
3.97.
3.97. So is 0.97 of a chunk of 90 count as a whole 90?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's four parts. So the first one counts for 5,000, the remaining 3 count for 1,000 each. So it should be 8,000 watts basic load. 8,000 watts, lights and plugs. So if you have a house, you can calculate your own home, square meters and whatever.
But isn't that say in excess of 90, you know, in excess of, since the 87.5,
It's talking about in excess of the first 90.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so then it says in excess of that 90 meters squared. So each 90 in excess of 90, or a portion thereof in excess of 90. So it's talking about after the first 90, you know, what do you got left, right? And then they're saying, well, we don't have to count 5,000 in each one. Each portion just gets 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000.
meters squared.
And you like one more.
You have that 5,000,
Yeah,
Like,
and then after that, your additional 90 meters squared.
take it up to section 8 and send it in, there's an appendix in the back that tells you to make comments to them. I've done it, and they replied to me, but they didn't give me an answer. So anyway, whatever.
Thank you for your time.
Here it said 3 months later, it was June, July, August, September, I got the email. Thank you for your inquiry. We will respond, whatever, and that's all I heard.
And they never responded?
typical.
But we figured it out after a few weeks.
It's an automatic email too.
So, any electric space heating loads with demand factors as permitted in section 62. So here's the section, part of section 62 that you need. You don't need to do the baseboard heater taps and all that, like in your worksheets, but this part applies to house calculations. So, section 62, does anyone know the rule? Section 62, I would almost say that it's 62 dash something.
118.
118, okay, let's take a look at 118.
And then go to 3. Rule 3, I remember.
So what this baseboard heat is, baseboard heat here, is 12 kilowatts. That is understood, I'm telling you this as part of the question. If you see that, it's understood that there's a thermostat in each room. Because you wouldn't normally have a bunch of baseboard heat everywhere and then have one thermostat down at the main entrance or something. It just wouldn't make sense. So usually, in most cases, have you ever seen it where you have one thermostat controlling all the baseboard heat in different rooms?
No, you have like one for each one, basically.
Yeah.
Unless you like connect it to.
I'm sure they have smart ones.
If you have a big community building and it's one big room and they have baseboard heat, they'll probably have a thermostat. But in this case, it's each room. So if that's the case, they're not all going to be on at the same time. So the first 10 kilowatts, they want you to count it at 100%, and after that, they say take the rest at 75%. So that's what that says, right? So you guys go to page 241. Just to recap this.
3A.
Here. First 10 kilowatts at 100%. Let's try that. 3 says 10 kilowatts at 100 plus 0.75 times the balance. The balance meaning
Whatever's left over.
the remaining amount. Yeah. So 0.75 times, so I got 12. So the first 10, so it's remaining 2. And just do the math, you got it. 1150? 11,500. Nodding, yes? Am I right? Okay. I'm just
Sorry.
in my head, so.
Doing something else here now. Rutherford. What did you get?
11.4.
75 times.
Oops, I didn't. My bad.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know, I went 750 and 750
I got-
is 1,500.
I got-
So,
I put 7.
anyway, okay, so AC, now under this item 3, it's the same item here, right? It talks about air conditioning, so we'll go back to 8200. What is that, page 77? There we go. Yeah, 8200. So now we're here. We say factors in section 62 for heat. Any electric space heating. What is space heating?
Say 40 years.
Okay, what are some other examples?
Electric space heaters.
So think about it as the air, the climate around you, the climate control of space heating. It's not water heating, it's not any other kind of heating, it's only the stuff you're gonna feel comfortable in the room with. So any kind, so duct heaters, electric furnaces, any kind of electric heat that causes, that is considered
Heating floors?
heating the room. If it's considered the only heat to heat the space, and sometimes it's not, so. Anyway, okay,
Plus AC.
plus AC, so air conditioning loads always go at 100%, okay? And unless, there we go, 100%. Did I say that it was interlocked?
Was that?
No, you didn't say.
What does that mean?
It means it can be on while the baseboards are running.
Okay, so if you have a way of locking out one and using the other only, right? So if you have a thermostat that says heat or cool, and then you only put it on heat, that means the AC is off. So as long as it's interlocked in that way to prevent the other one from being on while the other one is on, right? So only one on at any one time. 81064 says, if you check it, it says to use the greater.
That'd be a terrible use of energy. If they're both on.
Yeah, so where it is known that space heating and AC will not be used simultaneously, whichever is the greater load shall be used, right here in sub-row 4, right? But does that apply to our situation here? No. I did not tell you it was interlocked. If it says the AC is interlocked, then I would cross it out. If it says it doesn't say anything, or if it says not interlocked even, in both those, in this case or the case where it says not interlocked, then you add it in as well. You add both of them in. Right? So this could be the unit for, I always use the example, you know, you've got grandma upstairs with the, and let's say there's two grandmas, because this is a 3 kVA, it's probably like two units. Anyway, and it really, they get hot flashes. So the heat's on in the house, they get hot flashes. Everyone else has the heat on, but they want to be able to turn the AC on as well because they're too bloody overheated. They need AC.
Too
so
bloody.
there's one example.
I thought you were going to say too bloody old.
I don't know, whatever the case is. In this case, there's not interlocked. I don't know the reason why. Anyway, that could be a reason.
Yeah,
Hot flashes.
thanks, Jeff.
Okay. Menopause, right? Okay, anyway, so 100% of what? 3, so we've done the heat, we've done the AC.
Is that going to be on
So
the
we
test?
go AC, oh right here, AC, yes. 3 kVA at 100%, counted as watts. 3,000 watts. Okay. Any range? Okay, this is written funny, right? What do we do here? Up to 12 kilowatts. What if I had a 1 kilowatt range? How much would I count for that 1 kilowatt range?
All of it?
Is it more than
6,000 watts.
Right.
Up to 12, you count 6. After 12, you count 40% of the difference between what it is and 12. Over 12, you count the amount over 12 at 40%. So up to 12, 6 kilowatts, right? Plus 40% of, this is 14, so how much is over 12? 2, so I'm looking for 2. 0.4 times 2 kilowatts. I'm doing the math steps, not necessarily the answer. Okay, so if you follow along,
We gotta do the other range too, don't we?
up to 12s, hang on. So 0.4 times 2 is like 800, so we're looking at 6,800, right? For that range, first range. What about the second range? It says any electric range, blah, 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 blah. Go to Appendix B under 8200. What does it say about additional ranges?
Appendix.
It should be replaced with the hot stick.
Page 414.
8200, boiler water electric range is involved, the initial room provided for according to the rule of 8200. Any subsequent ranges will be provided for by 8201A.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or for apartments 8202. So 8201A7. All right, let's see what 1A7. Oh, 7. Loads greater than 1500. So I'm going to save that for my other loads. The smaller range, I'm going to count it as the second range. I'm going to count the biggest one as the main range. Follow? Got it. Okay. Main range. Any questions so far? Trying to make it really clear. Okay, hot tub, yeah, we've got 6 kilowatts. How much do we allow for? 50% of it, 90% of it?
100%, 100%.
100%, okay, sounds good.
Nice.
Okay, check on your calculator, 6,000 times 1.
60,000.
Oh, you had one job.
Sorry.
6,000. Okay. EVSE, what does it say in item 6? How
Oh, this should be my
much is it? 5.76. So we've done the hot tub, we've done that, we've only got a couple things left. That's how I would do it. I wouldn't go and write them all down on the page that you have the list. I would do this little list separately in order, and that way you know you've covered all bases in case you screw it up. Where everybody screws it, not everybody, where a lot of problems happen are the other loads. Other loads. This is where, like, if you just follow the step by step, you won't screw up the other loads, as long as you know what the other loads are supposed to be. Okay. EVSE at 100, so 5.76. Telling you where the pitfalls are, where I've seen the pitfalls with the other loads. 57.60. And maybe add it twice as well, just to be sure you've added it right. Might be a good thing to do. Okay, other loads are the second range and the dryer. It's the only other two things, right? So have those are the only two, as it says, that have not been provided for in these first 6 rules. So item 7 is anything else. What if I had a 1,500 watt dishwasher? Just going to throw it down there as an extra. 1,500 watts. Do I count anything 1,500? No, it has to be 1,501, 1,500.1, whatever, right? Bigger, it says in excess, greater than 1,500. So I don't count anything that's 1,500 or less, unless it's already been provided for in AC. AC is different. You have 1,500 watt AC unit, you count it, right? Depending on whether it's interlocked. But that's already been provided for. These are anything that has not been provided for and is also greater than 1,500 watts. Only these two here. Okay, so what is our total? 12 plus 4?
16.
So I would total them up. Don't do 25, 25, 25, 25%. Don't do it that way. Total it up. Total, best way, 16 kilowatts. What do I do with that 16 kilowatts?
Times it by 25%.
Yeah, it says 25% right there,
12.
which is
12.
4,000. So there you go. It's really, really easy. You just follow the steps. It's listed right before. You're allowed to use the code. We've done this before. Okay, so now what? Add them up. say? 45,060 watts. Okay, oh, I gotta know the voltage of this house. So we're telling you the voltage, so I'll do the other stuff on this side here.
240?
All the important stuff comes now, actually. That's the easy part, totaling it up. Now you gotta choose the wire, the breaker.
Yeah, this is where I go over.
Yes. Basic load is.
Maximum mid panels.
Yeah.
One thing to remember about minimum and maximum, minimum means that you have to at least be as big as the load, the current. Maximum is you've chosen the wire, you can't go higher than the capacity of the wire. So it's really those two things, minimum and maximum, is for a circuit breaker to use.
Minimums for the load, maximums for the wire? Put it in there.
That's right.
Okay.
Load minimum, wire maximum, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so, 45, what voltage? 122 40, yes. So this house is 120/240 volts, single phase, 3 wire. Like this. 3 wire. Okay, so I come into this panel, and I bring the neutral conductor, which somebody disconnected nicely, so you're really butchering this thing. And that is called, because I've got this bare wire here that runs all the way, by the way, I wouldn't have put a metal clamp in there, but anyway, they've got this all the way here, all the way down, and it goes outside to 2 rod electrodes that are 10 feet or 3 meters long each, and they're spaced 3 meters apart, and we call that one electrode, right? That's the grounding electrode, because it's in the earth, and this is the grounding. The bare wire is called the grounding conductor.
I was gonna say that.
It was too simple.
It is easy. It is easy. And it's a minimum number 6 copper. And also, you don't have to go bigger than number 6 copper. So, choose 6. Minimum 6. Okay. 10 dash. What's the size for a grounding conductor? We'll do that now. You want
It's 10, 8, 12, 8.
so you have a roll of number 6 bare, and you say, here, go run the ground, right? They tell you. So number 6 AWG. And copper. Just use copper. 10812A. Unless you have special permission to use aluminum, then you would go number 4. But number 6 is smaller than number 4, so it's minimum size anyway, so it works. Even if I didn't say copper, minimum size was 6 copper. Okay, so that's done now. Don't screw up that rule, that's a full mark for that rule. Full mark for that answer.
812.
2 marks. Maybe, depending on the test.
These marks.
Okay, circuit breaker. So this section here that we have a divider or a cover that has a way of dividing, you're not supposed to throw anything in that section other than the service conductors. This is coming from my meter base through this LV into this circuit breaker. And this point here is called the grounded conductor. This neutral becomes the grounded conductor because I grounded it, right? Not the grounding conductor that goes to the earth, but this is called the grounded conductor. So if you see grounded conductor in the code, it's talking about the neutral, right? It's current carrying, whereas the grounding conductor is non-current carrying under normal conditions. Okay, so then the 2 hots are the ungrounded conductors. They're not grounded ever, so they're ungrounded, right? It's not like you grounded them and then ungrounded them, but they're just they're not grounded. And then all this section is the branch circuit section. You have all the branch circuits. Okay, so just to recap. So for that size panel, I want to know the minimum size conductors that I would feed to this panel in a raceway. So let's say this pipe here, let's say from the meter, here, what size pipe, let's even call it this, what size service conduit would I use? If I used this RW, what is this one? This is T90. I don't know, I'm gonna use RW. What voltage do I use?
240.
Use 240. This is not a 120 volt system. Everybody says in Europe, like when I was there, they're like, oh yeah, you guys use 110. And first of all, it's not 110, it's 120, right? Nominally, meaning that in name you call it 120, even if it's 125 or 115 or whatever it actually is.
Can you tell them off, bro?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, damn right.
It's not, I changed it, I scratched it out of 120 volts, but anyways, but we don't have 120 volts to our services, we have, for single phase, we use 240. It's not actually 120, 120 is a secondary benefit voltage, and it just happens that our receptacles are all connected at that voltage, and our plug-in equipment, like our monitor and our computers and our whatevers, are all 120 volts, but our voltage we supply, we rarely supply 120 volts to a building. We do supply to maybe a telephone booth, if they still exist, a shed, you know, I don't know, depending, it could. A service though, I'm thinking like a service. Because like those phone booths in the middle of nowhere, if they don't have one, are actually a service. But they have to have a minimum 30 amp service, even if it's just a phone booth. Anyway. Long story short, divided by 240, what do we get for amps?
187.7.
What is it? 187?
187.75.
Okay. Good number. Okay. So, minimum RW90 XLPE unjacketed. In EMT. Service conduit. I'll write that out as well. The reason why I'm doing that is because you know it's not free air rating, it's in a raceway, and then we're going to size the EMT that we would put in here. Well, we're going to use EMT because our support is going to be on the wall. So we can use what we want. Service conduit. That's why I brought this in. Okay, so minimum RW90. I don't know where to look. I'm going to go to table 2 first. So do a comparison. Say table 2, table 39, 40041B. And 4000423. There are two ways of getting the wire ampacity that's required. I would go check this one first, check this one second to see if you can get a better deal out of that table. And that's how this works. Okay? So table 2, first of all. I don't have two. There. 75-degree equipment is standard for everything on this board.
Yeah, for you.
For any questions I'm doing from this point, they're all 75 degrees. So use the 75-degree column, and I'm looking for 187. I can't find it. What do I do?
Go to 200.
200. Okay, so I would have to go under table 2. I would be forced to go to 3/0, which is, and I would recommend you do this after you break down the wire. Write down how many amps that wire can carry.
200.
In brackets, just to note for yourself, not for me, but for you to know what to do with that. Because the ampacity of the wire dictates the breaker, the maximum breaker, right? Wire is the maximum, load is the minimum. Okay. Table 49. Let's look at this together. Who hasn't done 2015? Just the 2012 code? 2012? Okay, this is a new table then for you. Okay, what page is that on? 357? 99, 399 is what I gotta go for.
210.
Yes.
Okay.
Is this 187? Ooh. In this case, under copper,
This is 210.
see, the one on the left side is for both copper and aluminum. This is the ampacity. You almost want to write above this ampacity, right there where the cursor is. Right above service, put ampacity. So that column is the ampacity of the wire. It's almost like looking in table 2 or table 4 on that left side to see how many amps that wire can carry. Right? The rating of the wire is the ampacity. Okay. How do we use the table? We go to the loads, calculated loads. What is my calculated load? 187.75. Past 184, so that means I have to go to 210 amps and a 225 amp wire. So I have to go to 3/0, being a 225 amp wire. So in this case, which is the better deal? Yeah, I can. Is it?
Same, so it's using table 39, if you're gonna argue with the inspector, you can load that up to 225 amp.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So in this case, I can get more amps out of this wire. So I'm gonna go with this one and not this one. So do
Put
that
like your
little
circuit breaker on it, get an extra 25 amps, or do you need a larger?
If you needed to, you could.
Okay.
You could. Whether you, what you do actually as a field would be different, but I do a 200 amp breaker. But what's the maximum breaker I would be allowed? The wire is now 225 amp wire. This is only, guys, for residential applications where your conductor temperature is 75 Celsius or more. What type of wire did I choose? The type of wire, the insulation? RW90. So 90-degree wire. So I'm 75 or higher, yes. So this table applies. Single phase, 3-wire to single dwellings, row housing, apartment units, yes, it works. Okay, so that's where that applies. All right, back to the other. What about aluminum? Would I be able to, what size aluminum would I be able to use?
4/0.
4/0. Why?
It's 289.
The calculated value for aluminum, the load is 189, not 184. So 187.75 falls under that. So do you want to change it to aluminum?
No.
Make it a 200 amp wire?
No.
Because if I look under table 4, look at 4/0 aluminum, table 4. How many amps would it be rated for? I got 200 out of it here, right? Highlighted 2 amps. 4/0 aluminum with a 75 inch column.
180 amps.
180. So they're magically bumping it up to 200 amp wire in this table. Yeah. So that's what happened. They gave it 20 more amps, which changes all the calculations, right? Okay. So anyway, we'll leave it at copper. We'll leave it at copper. In that case, table 39 would also be a better deal because you got smaller wire for the same amps. Right? Either way.
Price-wise, with doing the aluminum, would that be cheaper than having a copper? Way cheaper. Which is why a lot of services are.
And easier to work with, too. Like once you get to that copper, it's really heavy. It's hard to, yeah.
So in the field, would you find that
Yeah.
they would go with that?
This person's rich.
Sure.
Wanted copper.
It's a weird thing to it's a weird thing to specify. No packs.
Copper plumbing, yeah. Okay, so which is greater?
House in Vancouver has gutters, man.
187.75 or 100 amps?
187.
Yeah.
187 is a bigger number.
Okay. So what about the maximum circuit breaker? Standard size circuit breaker.
14.
It's gonna be a big,
Okay, first of all, section 14 is what talks about protection and control, right? Protecting the wiring that you just installed. We installed, guys, 3-aught. We installed 3-aught. So if we install 3-aught, and it's now 225 amp wire, in section 14, what is the rule? 14.1.4. What's the sub rule? Just plain old 1. Yeah. No exception. Why?
Because,
Yeah.
what circuit breaker is this one? It's fine.
It matches the standard size, 225, and you kind of looked in table 13 to see if you remember.
Oh, I got that memorized.
Okay, if you do, that's great. But you don't write down table 13 in your rule because it's not actually being used as an exception. It's just,
No reference?
you're just checking. So don't even write it down. Don't even write it down for this.
Wait, lose on
Sometimes.
Dependent.
235 amps.
But isn't it good to be thorough?
So I can do a maximum standard circuit breaker is 225 amps. That's the highest I can go. If it didn't match, I would have to go in table 13 to see what other value they would allow me to use.
Is it allowed in 100% of water?
It's allowed, sorry,
You don't have to G-rate it, do you?
derate the
By
wire.
80%?
No. No. Oh, good point, good point. This leads us to this next one. What about the minimum size breaker? Minimum size standard breaker. Minimum is, Alex, what's minimum? Based on,
That's for the load.
based on the load. What was the load?
187.75.
Okay, don't I have to divide, don't I have to times that by 1.25 though?
Yes.
Do I?
No.
I don't know if you got.
Well, that are, wait, what's the equation you said there?
Calculated load, right? Okay.
Yeah, you had it.
Okay, got it. Fix your thinking. Fix your thinking here.
My thing is perfect, everyone else is wrong.
Okay.
Especially clay.
Sorry, 8200 still. 8200, 3. What does that say?
Notwithstanding Rule 86.02, the total load calculated in one value sub for 1 or 2 shall not be considered to be continuous load for application Rule 8104.
Aha. Non-continuous. Non-continuous load. So this says 8202, 3 says it's a non-continuous load. It deems it. I deem you non-continuous, even though it didn't prove it with timers, 50% of the time, they didn't prove it. It's deemed non-continuous because the rule says so. Because it's residential. You don't ever do this in commercial. It's only in these single dwellings and apartment units and that kind of thing, non-continuous. So I don't have to go 80% of anything. That's why I can use that number and choose this wire. I can go right at 187.5 and choose that wire, 0.75. So, we're going with this now. Not considered, so 8102, subrule 1 said the circuit
3%.
Can't do it. Anyway, there we go. The whole rule. The ampere rating of a consumer's service, is that what this is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a feeder, it's not a branch circuit, it wouldn't matter, it applies to all three. Shall be the ampere rating of the overcurrent device protecting the circuit or the ampacity of the conductors, whichever is less. So I cannot, the calculated load and the subrule 2, I told you to write next to subrule 2, the calculated load shall not exceed the ampere rating of the circuit. So the circuit value, this is a big circuit, it's a service, it's still a circuit, it's a complete circuit, it draws current there and back, right? Okay, so the calculated load. So I wouldn't really use this one, this rule here, but write it, I just wanted to go through it. I'd go 81042 says the calculated load cannot exceed. So, so the minimum circuit is the load.
Why does it do that?
Equals 187.75 amps. Choose a breaker based on that. I have to go higher than that, I cannot go less, because it's a
200?
minimum. So 200 is the next standard. So it's, I know.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going through the reasoning on it, so you can see why we're doing this. If someone said they're mixed up between minimums and maximums, it's all to do with the load of the circuit. You can't have smaller than that, ever. Right? Do not use the 5% rule in this course if you used it in the past. Where's the 5% rule?
What is the 5%?
81061. Put here, do not use.
Okay.
Do not use, inspectors are not allowing it.
Oh.
I've been told. We used to throw in the 5% rule and see, hey, you know what? This is 187.75. So I can pick a switch or fuse or whatever, or breaker based, I go 95% of that. That's what we used to do, times by 0.95. Don't do that anymore. No more of that, done. Throwing it out. Table 39 incorporates that into those loads already. That's the only case where the 5% rule has been applied. Don't apply it manually. No manual application of 81061. I know the code says it exists, but we're just not going to use it. And it makes everybody's answers the same anyway, so it makes it easier. Okay, we're good. What about the pipe size, the EMT? Okay, how many wires are in this?
Three wires.
2, 3. No bond?
Apparently not on it. Well, that's what the neutral is, or something stupid.
Oh.
Does it come down to?
Oh, I did it. It's an application of bonding using that same neutral. Only time they allow that ahead of the service box. Only time in the database. Okay, anyway, so there's no bonding conductor required because all this is bonded already. Okay, so we're going to say 12, 9, 10. So minimum size EMT. Okay. Anyone remember?
Yeah, you gotta go to table 8, 9A, and 10A.
Okay.
Well, not necessarily that, it depends on what's made of it.
12, 9, 10, subrule. I know the rule, I'm just waiting for somebody. Okay, first of all, just recap. You have to install pipe to a sufficient size that you don't damage the conductors, so don't put too many in a pipe. All these things about pipe do not exceed 200 conductors. I don't know when you'd ever have that. And then it says the maximum conductors, I would go with 4. You could just put 4 because you're going to be using all these. They're telling you that you actually can measure it and you can use a calculation and all this, but we're just using the tables. So notwithstanding all that, they said just use table 10A or 10B to size the wire. Right? So 12, 9, 10.
Well, it's 10A or 10B. Yeah, you can just, if you change that in your code, you give us their sheet,
10A to 10D, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, that's right. So if you say 10A is stranded wire, 10B is, what's 10B?
Photovoltaic cable,
Photovoltaic, okay, this isn't that. C,
solid,
solids, D,
DLO cable.
DLO, we went over this, right? Okay, it's A, so table 10A is stranded wire. Okay, you're good. This is the one you mostly go to, okay? 10A, also table 8 and table 9 something.
9I.
9I, why did you pick 9I?
That's what it said.
EMT,
Okay, so H,
325.
okay. So, what do I do here? Table 9I. So if this is new to 2015, as table 9 is no longer just conduit or tubing in general, it breaks it down into all the different types of raceways. And a little bit of history on this. Let's go back to 9A. This is the best way to teach this is to do an example and then just branch out into a discussion on this, because why does this matter? It matters because you need to know how to do this, right? So, 9A is rigid metal. So that's either rigid steel or rigid aluminum. Anyone use rigid aluminum? Wholesaler Ecol in Port Kells, go in the backyard, they got a whole skid full of rigid aluminum.
A whole bunch of hydro stuff.
What is rigid aluminum? But I wouldn't use it in sea air or marine air. I mean, it would basically disintegrate right now. It's where you don't want a ferromagnetic material around conductors. Because aluminum is, what is it, paramagnetic? It's paramagnetic.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so rigid metal. Now, have a look at this. The trade size, we used to say, why the hell is 1 inch not 25.4 millimeters diameter? Because in reality, the actual conversion is 20. If you don't have a lid, you can't drink it in here. Seriously, no lid, no drink.
What? Really?
Yeah, so put it off to the side, whatever, I don't want it spilling. Yeah,
I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm not good.
it's fine, go ahead.
The exception.
Okay, look at this.
I don't wanna see your lips come on.
The internal diameter of a 1 inch rigid steel pipe is actually 27 millimeters. We were told for years and years and years and years and years that, oh, ½ inch is the internal diameter, ½ inch, and all the raceways have the same internal diameter. It doesn't matter what it is. That's wrong. They don't. They're close. They're not exactly the same, right? So some of them have a bit smaller. So this, look at a 1 inch, 27. Now look at flexible metal conduit, 25.4. That one is actually, that is 1 inch. Right? Okay, look at rigid PVC, also 25.4. Right? So, I don't know, DB2, let's say you're going to install some DB2. Oh, I don't have that one, but look at a 53 up here. In A, 53 was 52.91. Only make them in bigger sizes. 50.8, so it's less. So some of them are less than others. This is a key piece of information that I'm telling you. Oh, look at this one. I can get in an RTRC fiberglass conduit, I can get 29.34 millimeters out of that 1 inch, right? Anyway, and this is just carrying on. Liquid tight, 26. Flexible liquid tight. Well, that's
Flexible.
non-metallic, liquid tight, flexible, and metallic. So metallic and non-metallic. So if you ever work on air conditioning units, a lot of times the low voltage stuff goes in a sort of a plastic flex. That's the non-metallic flex. Flex right there. That's how you size the wiring in there.
Not allowed across your pipe at a
26.2 for EMT. So we're going to use this 9I for EMT here. 9J, what's this? ENT. ENT. right?
Non-metallic.
Wouldn't that be the
That's
core
not
line?
PVC?
Core line in the slab, ENT, right? That's what it is. So this is 25.37. So it's a bit smaller than EMT or rigid steel. Okay, so we're going to use 9i. But first of all, which percent column do I use? Guys, if I take the internal diameter, let's use 1/2 inch here, 15.4, go square it and times it by pi over 4 to get the cross-sectional area, what do you get?
SAT, what did you
That's how you calculate the area of a circle.
Pi times 4?
Pi over 4 times the
Pi.
diameter squared. Or pi r squared, either same thing.
Where's pi in the second fraction?
I got 12. That's wrong.
So the 100% column is telling you the actual cross-sectional area of that particular raceway. So if you look at some different ones, 186, 114, 119, like, you know what I mean, like 112, so they're all different. Okay? We cannot fill the pipe to its 100% cross-sectional area because you need airspace in there for something, a 4-letter word called heat, because of the conductors in the pipe. So they're going to allow you to go one of these percentages somewhere in here probably. So let's see, table 8. Table 8. Because I told you you got to use table 8, right? If I have one conductor, don't do lead sheath down here, just do this first row. Conductors, conductor cables that are not lead sheathed. Okay, if I had one conductor, I would be allowed to fill it to 53% of the conduit's internal cross-sectional area. 53% of that. And there is a 53% column. Okay, so this tells you what to do in the table 9s. You use the table 8 to determine what to do in table 9s, all the 9s, right? Okay, 2 conductors, I have to go down to 31%. You guys are going to use this when we get to transformers, and we're running a 600-volt single-phase feeder to the primary, and there's only 2 conductors in there. You're going to automatically go to 40%. I'm going to tell you, no, be careful, because 2 conductors actually drops it down to 31%. It doesn't really make sense, does it? But if you have a pipe and you have 2 wires in there, it's the geometry of it. Geometry of it. If you had 3 wires, it actually fits better. It's more circular and it's easier to pull. And I'm not really sure if that's the reason, but somebody figured out you can only go so big for percent fill when there's 2 wires. So if you only ran 2 wires in a 1/2 inch EMT, like 2 number 12s, or let's say 2 number 8s maybe, something, you'd have to make sure it's in the 31% fill. If you put a 3rd one in there, you can add all 3 up and go to 40% fill. Yeah. So anything 3 or more is 40%. Come on, there you go, 40%, 3, 4, or over 4, so that's easy. How do I determine the size of each conductor though? Let's see, what do we have? RW90, XLPE unjacketed. How do I find that?
Go to table 10 and then look under the class B column and find out the
That one, right?
what size are we using again? You figured that out yet?
Yeah, 3 odd.
Oh, yeah, 300.
201 millimeters squared, that's the area.
It's really 10 inch. You say, but Ron, I remember table 6. I liked table 6. Too bad. Okay,
170.6.
be careful to always use the second column in each one that says millimeters squared area, not the diameter. Okay, this this table can be used for other purposes, for the diameter of a wire, right? In, let's say, pull box calculations, there is one like that.
The 170.6.
Okay, so why don't I use this RW90XLPE?
That's the jacket.
Oh, that little cross thing, you gotta look down here,
Because it tells you right
says,
here.
oh, it's jacketed. And the
3
little
aught.
asterisk
3 aught.
says unjacketed.
Yeah.
So be careful between this first one and third one.
Here.
First and third, be careful of that, yeah.
Not a great question. What do they mean by jacketed? Like it's different than the insulation, right? Or what
Yeah,
do
it's-
you- what
Yeah,
do you mean by that?
It's the same color.
it's the same insulation. It's like another coating or another clear layer on top of that insulation.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a
What's the-
moisture thing, I think. Anyway, Google that, I'll put it up here.
Oh, from our
Google
Thanks for Alex.
jacketed, or jacketed.
maintenance and the roads. Dwelling.
There you go, just related. Okay, so 3 aught says 170.6 times 3, right?
511.80.
511.8,
8.
okay. So those three wires to accomplish 40% fill. Whose is this?
Nobody's.
Yeah, question please? Yeah. It's chapstick. Just toss
Is
it.
that yours?
Yeah, just toss it. Ask me if you
So 40% fill. The area of this wire is 511.
I'm 5'11". That's it. Whenever we do
Table 9I. So where do I look? 40% column. Why do I use 40% column?
Because you got 3.
That's what we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
So you have
And then
three.
so we go to 511, so hey, 515 works perfectly. 515. Okay, so that means it's trade size. So this EMT here, trade size 41, which is 1.5 inches.
Is it usually longer at 41? For this?
Because there's a.
It depends.
Depends
Depends on the, no, not always. 45, 41, 53, whatever, 63.
Where'd you get the 3 from?
Did I get the what?
Is it 3 conductor?
3 conductors.
Okay.
Yeah, you're taking
Up
the
on the
area
top.
of 1 and you're times it by 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
size 41 is a table at the front that converts it from the tree size.
Okay, how much can that handle? 515. Okay, here's my suggestion. Use this as your primary method of conduit fill. The secondary method is only when you do not know the raceway type. If you don't know the raceway type, there's another table.
Of course there is.
It is triple X. So if I go to RW90, it's probably the first one. Look at all these. F, E, D, C, D, A. A. This is the one. Without a jacket. R90, RW90, yes. Okay. So this is the one, 6A. The rule for that is 12, 9, 10, 5, and this is only if you don't know the raceway. This is not for this question. Okay, 12, 9, 10, 5, table 6A. If they said, what minimum size conduit or tubing? So if they say, in this question, minimum size conduit or tubing, that's the only time you go to this method and not this first method. Yeah.
What's like the real out working? When is it a scenario when someone said, hey, put that wire, it's like, well, what kind of raceway? And they go, I don't know. I like, how don't you know? Like,
Yeah, I thought about that too, I think
It's a
using
ton.
6 is a waste of time.
like how, like,
It's
just
a
that.
quick way to do a quote.
Yes.
That's
Gotcha. Okay, touche.
Yeah, so, and it's a quick way maybe to use it on the IP if you don't have time, because you don't have 90 seconds per question, right?
What?
Yeah,
I was telling.
no, it's 3 minutes, sorry, 3 minutes a question. 3 minutes.
Do this,
Yeah.
took us 2 hours.
You want to do the quick questions and then go back and, yeah,
Jesus.
it used to be 90 seconds.
You gotta keep all the
These are, it used to be 180 questions.
And now it's how
Like basically, you
Now
know,
it's
it's
100 questions in 4 hours.
Yeah, but they probably make the questions harder.
Some of them, like, they did IP prep over there, and they're saying, well, the first question, like question number 1, it took like 8 minutes to do. You know, it's just like, so I said, okay, what do you do then? You look for the quick ones.
Yeah.
You look for the quick one, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna circle that one, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do this, hey, I got 50% of the test now I'm gonna go back, you know, so, yeah.
I bet what they did was they're like, we have 80 questions that are too easy. Let's get rid of those.
No, they're testing people that throw those together, so. Anyway, so we've got trade size 41, let's see, 3/0.
1.
In this example, 3/0, or 3/0 or 2/0? 3/0 actually means, yeah, because this is 3/0 or 2/0?
That's 3/0.
Yeah, because
Could
we
be
were
2/0
over 184 amp load, so we had to go to the next one up, yeah. So it's telling me I have to use a 2-inch. So you get the wrong answer if you use this method, but the minimum size conduit or tubing in this would be trade size 53.
But it's actually smaller.
The other one is more accurate, and what happens is if you guys look in Appendix B, under section 12.9.10,
Why are you
this will
saying
explain why.
53 instead of 41?
This table is for if you don't know
What was the rule again?
the conduit type. So like 9I was really specific for EMT, but this one's general conduit.
Page 429.
Stupid.
I'm just gonna go there. Okay. Let me find where it is here. There it
It's on the maximum number of singles.
Okay, for some reason, maybe it was in the handbook. Yeah, it doesn't mention it here, but I've got another thing here. Anyway, you can read about it there. I'm going to show you something else here. The handbook, a conduit fill example in the handbook. So you guys know about the handbook, right? It's the big, thick, looks like the code book, except
Yes.
it's the handbook. Okay.
Yours is thick, mine's like.
In that, it gives you more examples in the handbook, so if it's about $100. It's less than the code book, actually.
We
Because
get one with your code book.
it's demand, right? It's not supply, it's demand.
No, it's not that.
It's because people want this more than they're charging. Okay, so determine the minimum size of EMT for a number 6 T90 nylon, they're saying, for 4 wires. And then they did 2 methods here, and they calculated one of them to be 3/4 and the other one to be 1 inch. They came up, same with us, we came up with 2 different sizes. Sometimes they match, sometimes they don't, right? It all depends. In here it says both answers are acceptable. I would say both answers are not acceptable because if you know the type of raceway, then the minimum size is the smaller one of the 2 calculations. And it would be, basically always will be the table 10, 8, 9, 10 method will be the smaller one, always. And the reason for that, the reason you can prove me wrong and try and figure out if it isn't true, it says here, here you go, smallest conduit right there, that one there. It says that the calculated values for conduit and tubing dimensions used in 6A to 6K are based on the smallest conduit and tubing dimensions from 9A to 9J. So they've taken all those different types of raceways and said, which one's the smallest? Say, okay, if that's the smallest, then I'm gonna have to use a bigger pipe size than I would, because I'm using for flexible conduit instead of EMT. It's used the smallest one, because it doesn't know which one you're gonna choose, so it wants to be, it's the safe method. Table 6 is the safe method on a job, where you use something one size bigger, for example. Not gonna hurt anything, except the money, you know, how much it costs, right? So for quotes, they probably use table 6, is what I'm thinking. But for the smallest size, no. If you do more accurate calculation, sometimes you're able to go down a size. It's usually how that works. So that's my explanation. Don't believe it when it says both answers are acceptable, because the handbook is not the code book. The handbook is the opinion of one person. And so it's not necessarily law. The code book is law, and interpretation is the inspection. It's really what it is.